just comes home to find her booty naked on the bed. Hello, little enzymes. Welcome back to Daisha's Digest. The topic for today's video is going to be not accepting reality. We have two stories. They both have updates. One is long, one is short. Everything will be included in the description. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'll do the short one first as a warm-up. So it says, am I the a-hole for not acknowledging my girlfriend's equity in the house we live in? I, 38 male, met my girlfriend, 32 female, 7 years ago when I was looking for a house. At the time, she was working for a guy who did custom carpentry, and we were introduced by a mutual acquaintance who I told I wanted to redo the kitchen in the house. She and her boss did some work for my kitchen renovation. We remained in touch, and about 5 years ago, we started dating. Okay, so 7 years ago, she did the work. There was a 2-year break where they were in touch, and then they started dating. Now it's been 5 years. He says about 3 years ago, she moved in. We maintain separate finances at my insistence. I have 2 kids. I pay 100% of the mortgage, homeowner's insurance, HOA fees, and any maintenance costs that arise. We split groceries and utilities historically. About 4 months ago, my girlfriend lost her job. She has been looking but has not found anything. She has been paying most of her expenses using savings. About 2 months ago, I was reached out to by a realtor. There is an older couple originally from the area looking to move back. They looked at another house that was for sale in the neighborhood, but they saw my house on the outside and really loved it. He said they would be willing to pay a premium. I let them do a walkthrough, and they made me an insane offer. After talking to my girlfriend, I accepted. We are now looking for a new place. My girlfriend has approached me about collecting on her, quote, equity when the sale is finalized. I thought she was joking, but she was serious. I maintain she does not have equity in the house. She thinks she does because of what work she did in the kitchen during the renovation and helping maintain the house. She was paid for her renovation work. It was before we were dating. The maintenance she does on the house is cleaning and occasionally unclogging a toilet and or changing the smoke alarm batteries. I do not think that is grounds for equity in the house. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Sounds like sis is trying to finesse a come up because, as you said, she got paid for the work that she did do on the house. Also, there was never an agreement that like, oh, if you help me with this kitchen renovation, I'll make sure that you have equity when the house is sold. There was no type of agreement of that. And I would hope that she's doing regular maintenance on the house as a person who lives in the house. She's not putting any money towards the house, not paying down on the mortgage, not paying down on the homeowner's insurance, not paying down on the HOA fees. So why would she get any equity? And they aren't married. Like, they don't have any kids together. There's so many reasons why she should not get equity in the house that it floors me that she even thought of this. Someone said, not the a-hole. I'm also a woman in my 30s, and this is insane. You paid for the work she did before your relationship, so that was not an investment of any kind on her part, and certainly can't be considered. You pay for all the house costs. The work she does around the house, at most, could be considered a favor to you for offering her free housing. Sheesh. That's a good point too. Someone said, honestly, I own a house as a woman and I have charged previous boyfriends rent because that's what adults do. They pay for their living spaces. It's crazy to me that someone who put no money down and paid minimal expenses expects to get large sums of money. Girlfriend had all those years of not paying rent. She should have been banking some serious cash. Then she wouldn't ask for handouts. Any equity is OP's and maybe his kids. That's also a good point. I didn't even think of the fact that because she wasn't having to pay a mortgage for, when did she move in? 3 years ago? She's had 3 years of not having to pay any bills, essentially. Only groceries and utilities. that's at most like, well, it depends on how crazy you get with groceries. Maybe around like $500 a month. And depending on how much she makes, I don't know, but I would assume it's a good amount. She's 32. She should have been able to save a pretty penny in 3 years not having to pay bills. Girl, she said, I'm finna try to come up off of the sale of this house. Deleted says, not the a-hole. Now ask if she wants to talk about the 5 years worth of rent that she owes. Edit, by the way, you now see what type of person your girlfriend is. I would suggest that you go find a new one. So then there was an update 19 days later. It says, a few weeks ago, I posted about my girlfriend of 5 years wanting equity in my house that I'm selling. Well, I found out the reason she wanted the equity is because she wanted to leave the relationship. So she was going to take the money and run. Literally. About 8 months ago, she had asked me if I would get a vasectomy reversal and consider having kids with her. I have 2 already. I told her no. She apparently wants kids now. After that conversation, she started planning her exit strategy, but then lost her job. She thought I would give her at least a little bit of equity. If I gave her 5% of the sales price, that would be enough for her to leave. Well, after learning all this, I broke up with her. House is set to close in the next 30 days, so my now ex needs to find a new place by then. She has limited funds and asked me for a loan and/or to spot her some money. I refuse. So that is where we stand after everything. Good. I would have refused as well, because if in 3 years of not having to pay any bills and working, you don't have any money and you've only been unemployed for 4 months, literally all you have to pay for is groceries and utilities. Like, no. She gave OP a blessing by leaving. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next story. Like I said, this one is longer. There are 2 updates. It says, my wife refuses to accept our divorce and I think she's trying to trick me. My wife, 29 female, and I, 34 male, have been married for 4 years, and up until a year and a half ago, things were fantastic. Our marriage began to deteriorate after there was a significant drop in spicy time between us. Not intimacy, just the actual spicy part of the relationship. We would still cuddle and have deep, intimate moments, talking and just being around each other, but she kept rejecting my attempts at taking things further past kissing. Now, we have had no problem communicating, so I made sure to address it early, and we talked and made adjustments. We both made sure to stay in shape. We tried being more adventurous. We went to couples therapy and counseling, and even tested both of our hormone levels. Everything was normal. Each solution would work for a little while, and then we'd be back to having spicy time, maybe once a month. I asked her several times if she was no longer attracted to me, to which she denied every time. I asked her if I was falling short in the relationship in any other way, to which she said no. Well, about a month ago, she gets back from her therapy session and tells me that she believes she's asexual, and that's the reason for her libido being non-existent as of late. I was definitely confused because we had such great spicy time for a while in the beginning of our relationship, but her telling me that she's now asexual was heartbreaking because everything else is great. Obviously, I'm not going to force her to have spicy time, but we had a long conversation about our relationship, and I came to the conclusion that we should get a divorce. I say I because she immediately rejected the idea and said we would figure something out and wouldn't talk to me about it anymore. I didn't know what to say, so I dropped it. Well, 3 weeks go by without spicy time, and I decided that I have to do this for my own mental health, so I filed for divorce and had her served with the papers. Dang, that was a little abrupt, don't you think? I mean, I know that's a big issue, but like these days they got lotions and potions that can, try and assist. They got that maca. I heard, is it maca root? They got things. They got vitamins and supplements and things that maybe could help. in this situation. But he said, nah, if this is it. This has gone on too long. Hey, I get it. He said, last week when I got home from work, she was going about the day like nothing was wrong. I asked her if she signed the papers and she flat out said, we're not getting a divorce, and changed the subject and acted like things were normal. Obviously, I thought this was crazy, so I stopped her and said I couldn't be in a marriage devoid of spicy time, and I mentioned that I was being incredibly fair with our divorce. She can keep the house that we bought and paid for with cash. She paid 1/3, I paid 2/3. I'd take all of the debt, which isn't much. We'd split our savings and investments in half, and she can keep 2 of our 3 paid off cars. I only wanted to keep my sports car. That is exceedingly generous. Like, he didn't even try to do anything there. Then he says, thankfully, we don't have kids. I love her and wanted her to be comfortable, and I have no problem starting over since I make a good income. But she won't budge or talk about the divorce. This brings us to 2 days ago. I get home and go to our bedroom and find my wife's friend, 27 female, in our bed, unclothed. I immediately shut the door, said sorry, and went looking for my wife. I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing there, and she said that she was here for me. I put 2 and 2 together and said that I'm not having a 2-piece spicy with other women in place of the woman I chose to marry. She was adamant on saying that I could sleep with her whenever I wanted and that her friend agreed to it. I couldn't believe things would get this far, so I went back to our bedroom and asked her friend to leave. I packed a bag and I've been staying in a hotel nearby since that night. My wife, her mother, and her sister keep calling me, but I'm just not interested in hearing what they have to say. This feels like a trick. I just want this whole thing to be over. Does anyone have any advice? Is this some kind of ploy for alimony? We do have a prenup. Should I just contact my lawyer and try and force the divorce? I'm really uncomfortable with the entire situation. Whoo, child, there's a couple edits. Let me go to the comments first, child. Okay, first I just want to say, purely her lack of communication for me would be grounds for either some very serious counseling or, on the road to divorce. Because how do you just make this whole determination with your friend like, oh yeah, you could just sleep with my husband. Don't talk to him about it at all. And then he literally just comes home to find her booty naked on the bed. Like, how is that a logical progression of events in your mind? I'm so confused. So some of the comments said, you did right, bro. Let your attorney handle this. Do not have intimacy with anyone until your attorney says you're in the clear. OP responded, that's my only course of action right now. I'm going to look for an apartment tomorrow. Someone else said, also, why are you offering her so much? Split the marital property equitably and move on. If you even have the slightest inclination that she's trying to set you up, then don't just roll over and let her have everything, because that won't be enough for her and her attorney. Another person responded and said, this, OP, I don't see any reason that the judge wouldn't just divide the assets and liabilities 50-50. I understand wanting to offer her more to get her to sign, but if she's not willing to do that and you have to go to court about it, you're going to want to tighten up so you have some leverage. OP responded, she's been wonderful to me otherwise. I don't feel like she should be punished for finding out who she is. I want her to be comfortable because she doesn't make nearly as much as I do. I can bounce back with no issue. She'll still have to work to provide for herself unless she marries another high earner or becomes one herself. A fresh start doesn't scare me at all. I guess, but I mean, if you just do like alimony, then she'll be fine. Like, she'll have something to supplement, but just basically handing over the house, like, if it were me, I would split it 50-50. We paid cash and you gonna let her have 2/3, 60%, well, 66%? Give me my other 16%. And then I could just throw you some alimony. I mean, that's what he decides to do. I feel like this situation would be somewhat fair if he's not paying alimony. But if he's doing all this and paying alimony, bro gotta tighten up, like that other person said. Someone else said, that's nice of you, but she's being manipulative and sketchy as heck with this latest stunt. You being so nice about it is fair enough. And then the last comment, I don't know if she's being maliciously manipulative. Most likely, she's terrified of him leaving her and is in denial or doing everything possible to get him to stay, or both. He says everything is perfect except for the lack of spiciness, so she sees this as they can stay together if she provides him someone to be spicy with that isn't her. It's not a black and white situation, and while I agree the wife's actions are not appropriate, I think she's acting out of fear and love. Again, that doesn't make it okay, just that we don't have enough information to say that she's 100% trying to trap him in anything. Yeah, I don't get trapping vibes, I get scrambling vibes. Like she just trying to think of any little thing she could do to try to get him to stay, but this ain't it, sis. So the edit, and then I'll go to the first update. He said, edit, here's the update if anyone's interested. Oh, so I guess this is an update. So there's 3 updates technically. Okay, so update 1, here's the update if anyone's interested. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. I feel overwhelmed, so I probably won't bother with another update after this one. I don't know. My wife came to my hotel last night and we talked about everything. She told me the full truth and what's going on in her mind. A few of you commented this in the last post, so you were right. She has always been asexual. She and her whole family have known since she was 16. Apparently, this is the reason why her last long-term relationship of 3 years ended. He broke up with her after the spiciness between them diminished to being non-existent after the first year. She told me that spiciness is easier for her in the beginning when emotions are running high, but she still needs to force herself to have it. I knew they broke up due to irreconcilable differences, but I didn't ask for details, nor did she tell me. After a lot of apologies and crying, she told me that I was the first person she was able to tolerate spiciness with for so long that she did enjoy it a handful of times. But after a while, she still felt like she was, she felt like she was being taken advantage of. I broke down after hearing this and started kicking myself for not catching on to any of this. She said she tried her best to please me as much as she could. She still doesn't want a divorce and she doesn't want the house, cars, or the savings. She just wants me and is ready to do whatever it takes to keep me. She even said that she would sign a post-nup stating this. As for her friend, she was there during her last breakup and helped to support her through it. My wife went to her after I brought up divorce and talked things out. Her friend suggested that she open the relationship for me, but she said she didn't want me sleeping with strange women, so her friend volunteered herself to be the one that sleeps with me. My wife thought this was a great idea, which led to the fiasco at our house. I won't comment on her appearance because it doesn't matter, and I don't blame the friend. The friend is acting a little shady because why are you so eager? My lawyer got back to me. You were all right. I don't need her permission, but I will have to wait if I want to push it through. I asked her why she lied to me this entire time, and she said she was tired of being rejected after revealing she was asexual, so she convinced herself that she would be able to force herself to be intimate during the relationship. The hormone testing, the sessions in couples therapy, and all of our, quote, solutions was just her buying time to find another way around spiciness or give herself enough time to build up the strength to start regularly being spicy with me again. Our conversation ended with us holding each other in bed, crying for a couple of hours. No, we did not have a 2-piece spicy. She pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce to look for a solution together and left my hotel room. I'm now sitting alone typing this freaking post. I guess I found out that we don't share everything with each other. Thank you to everyone who has messaged me directly. I'm still trying to get to all of them. I don't know what I'm going to do. Dang. Okay. Well, there's an update 2 weeks later. I feel like, well, I don't know what they've tried because he said they tried different things and therapies and stuff. So maybe they really did try like everything that they could possibly try and there's just nothing else. Honestly, if she good with an open relationship, if I was him, I'd be like, okay, man, let's try it. Let's just see. That seems like a good, she can get what she want, he get what he want. If she fine with it, but not with the best friend though. They'd have to find somebody else. But that could also get messy because then what if he develops feelings for the other lady? So update 2 weeks later. I don't think I can link my previous post, so just go to my profile, I guess, if you care to read the original post. I've tried to read every comment and message and take to heart what most of you had to say. Also, please stop messaging me. I can't respond to everyone. It's too much. I'll make this as short as possible. After my last update, my wife asked me to meet with her about a week later to discuss things with her. I've been staying at an extended stay since that night with her friend. We met at our house and talked for a few hours. She started off with a ton of apologies for how she acted, her lying about her sexuality, and not taking my sexual needs more seriously. Before I could say anything, she presented a signed post-nup agreement she had drafted with a lawyer stating that she doesn't want anything, the house, the cars, savings, everything. I felt like the biggest a-hole for thinking she was tricking me for more money. I asked her if she was serious and she told me to take the post-nup with me and sign it when I'm ready. I still haven't signed it. It's in my backpack. I told her that I still think divorce is our best course of action and that we both deserve to find someone who matches our needs. She still refused and borderline begged me to reconsider. She started crying and so did I. Seeing her like this was devastating. I told her finding other women to sleep with me wasn't going to work. What if I develop feelings for them? What if I get one of them pregnant? Do we expect her to get rid of the baby? She said we'll, quote, figure it out as we go along, and to please give her more time to work on other solutions. She's set up appointments for spiciness and hormone therapy and is seeing a spicy guru. I said that it sounds like we're going through the same things again, but she was adamant and pleaded with me to wait. There were more apologies on both sides, and we kissed for a while before ending the conversation. Then I went back to my hotel that night. A few days later, I tried texting her, but she didn't respond, so I called her dad. I'm avoiding her mother and sister since they are saying the same things as my wife. Her dad told me that she moved back home and has been holed up in her room since our talk. She called out of work. He told me that she's barely eating, bathing, or talking to him or her mom. He asked me what I was going to do, but I didn't have an answer for him. He just said he understands and said he would be here to talk anytime I wanted to. So I went back to our house and a good portion of her stuff was gone. The whole place feels empty. I've been sleeping in one of the spare rooms. I'm planning on flying to my mother's house in a couple of weeks to spend time with my family and to decompress from this entire situation. I'm still on the divorce side of the fence, but I guess there's no rush. Thank you to everyone for your insight and concern. Seriously, I know we're all strangers, but most of you have been a huge help to my mental health. Seriously, thank you. Also, my cousin uses Reddit and reached out after he found my last post and asked me to shout him out if I made an update. Love you, Virgil. Thank you for being there for me. I think I'll just make a quick edit to this post once we reach a resolution for anyone that cares. Ooh, this is a tough situation. Because like he said, that this is just the one thing, like everything else is cool, just the one thing, but it's an important one thing. And yeah, obviously, like as you get older and things progress, that spiciness might not be there anymore, but they're in their prime. She 29, he 30 something. Like if y'all was ever gonna be spicy, these the years to do it, okay? So it's a big issue. I don't exactly know how they're gonna navigate this, but the solutions she has brought up don't really seem viable. I think, I mean, in hindsight is whatever, but these days, I feel like there's so many forums and groups and whatever. She should have just partnered with someone else who was also asexual. And that would have been the perfect thing. I'm sure there's some asexual dating groups or something. Or there's a group for everything these days. So it might be a tough lesson to learn, but if they do end up getting a divorce, if I was her, I would start there. Someone said it's a rough situation, but if having an intimate physical relationship with your wife is important, I think you know what needs to be done. Sucks for everyone involved. Another person, spiciness in a relationship is like the toilet in your house. It's not the first thing you mention when talking about it, but if it's not working, then it's immediately noticed. Yikes. So 10 months later, there was an update. Hey everyone, in hindsight, I regret making these posts because I think I received too many pieces of advice. I keep thinking I should have just handled it internally with just family. I don't regret my decisions. I just wish I gave myself more time to think. Anyway, here's the update. I'll keep it short. The divorce was finalized months ago. Our house was sold along with one of the cars, and my ex-wife is still living with her parents. I had a little more than 2/3 of the proceeds wired to her account, but the last time I talked to her dad, she hasn't touched a dime. I was informed that she checked into a mental health clinic, but I don't know how long she was there or what her current state is. I changed my number, but her dad has emailed me a few times to check on me throughout this last year, which breaks my heart because he's a great man. Him playing both sides of the fence like this really made everything go a lot smoother. Other than not warning me, which I honestly don't think it was his place to, he's been a huge help. I moved back to my home state to be closer to my family. I may leave to go to another state again. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I feel numb from this whole thing. Not much of a drinker, so I've been smoking a ton of that grass and working out to occupy my mind. To everyone who didn't get a response from me in my messages, I'm sorry, but there was just too many. I responded to as many as I could mentally handle. I think that's it. I can't imagine that there would be any additional questions, but I'll answer whatever I can. Someone said, wow, hope you both find some type of lasting happiness. You moving on, your ex hopefully finding some peace. Another person, I'm not so sympathetic to his ex-wife. She lied to him for years, misled him, and drew this out and took years of his life away trying to live her version of happiness at his expense. It's unfortunate she's taking it so hard, but what she did to him was cruel and selfish. I mean, that's a harsh way to put it, but they low-key got a point there. Someone else said, do you love her at all? I feel like men are all thinking with their members, like there's no love if there's no spiciness. Like, how is being asexual worth a surprise divorce with no discussion? And how are you supported by people on Reddit is just a joke. Love does not equal to spiciness, and if you're willing to dump the woman you made vows to based on that, then you don't understand love at all. You won't find love ever, and anything you find going forward is not going to be more than lust. This comment got downvoted. OP responded, he said, we tried to fix things for over a year. I understand where you're coming from, but I guess my question to you is, what can you live with and without in a relationship? Money, attraction, respect, intimacy, non-smexual, security. Which one of these are you comfortable with losing in your relationships? That's a good point. That's a good point. OP8 with that response. And that was January 27th. I doubt that he made another post after that. So let me just see. Oh, I do want to note though, because looking on his profile, I see that these posts were made on the 2 Hot Takes subreddit. So shout out to 2 Hot Takes. They are another Reddit channel. But I guess that's it. He doesn't have any other updates. Well, we'll go ahead and go to the palate cleanser. So just a reminder to like, comment, and subscribe. subscribe, just double check, make sure you subscribe right now. We haven't done a petty revenge palate cleanser in a while. So this one is from the Petty Revenge subreddit. It says, sit there laughing at me at the petrol station, I'll inconvenience you even more. Now this person clearly is in like Europe somewhere because of the slang and stuff that they use. So I'm gonna Americanize it just to make it make sense for myself. So if you're reading it on the screen, I'm going to be saying different things that they say in the post just to make it make sense. They say, this was a few years ago. I pulled into my local gas station. All the pumps were in use. So I pulled up behind one of the pumps, waiting for the van, using it to finish and move on. After quite a few minutes, the driver casually strolled out of the shop in no hurry, despite the line at the busy entrance, and walked to his van. He could see that I and several other vehicles were waiting to use the pumps. The van driver in the pump next to him was obviously a friend. The driver finished up and the two of them stood and had a chat. They were aware of us waiting and were clearly loving the fact that they were holding us all up, even turning to laugh arrogantly at the guy waiting next to me, who called to them to move away from the pumps. This went on for 5 more minutes until they got bored of their silly game and drove off. This moron was a plasterer and had his name and phone number written all over his van, displaying his trade. Oh boy, I'm petty and made a note of the details. A few weeks later, I called him up and said I'd bought a house in need of renovation and needed a quote to board out and skim the entire house. Oh, he was only too happy to quote for a big project, assuring me he was great at his trade and I could not find a better quote. We discussed his availability and he was keen to come and look at the job. I gave him the address of a rundown house a few streets away from me that had recently sold at auction. He knew the property. He had driven past it a few times and noticed it was up for auction. We arranged for him to call the following day. Of course, I wasn't there. He rang a few times and left a voicemail, checking where I was. Eventually, I called him back, very apologetic, said my husband had fallen off a ladder and I had to take him to the emergency room. He said, okay, I'll rearrange the visit. We arranged another time a few days later. The next appointment came and I had 2 more messages from him, clearly annoyed I wasn't there again. I called him back again and apologized. I said I could totally understand his anger and wasted time. It reminded me of a time I was at a gas station a few weeks ago and some idiot and his friend stood having a good old chat while laughing at the drivers waiting to use the pumps. I heard a penny drop. That was when the raging and swearing started, which just set me off roaring with laughter. I made my point. It was fabulous. I spent the next few weeks blocking various numbers, sending harmful texts, but he got bored of that eventually. I hope he learned that actions have consequences. To be so brazen, to sit there and hold up the pumps at the gas station with your business name and phone number plastered all over your vehicle. Like, are you mad? Why would you? That's great. Petty revenge though. I feel like that's something that I would do, but I would have to make sure that I don't call from my actual phone number. I would have to like create a new phone number to use so that he couldn't call me back and be sending me texts. Don't send me no texts. I will delete that number quick. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.